We have some big Habs trade news as on the Chris Johnston show. Chris Johnston himself said that Montreal is one of the final teams that are in on David Jiricek, the former 6th overall pick right shot defenseman. We got to dive into everything on that front. Plus, we have a bit of Jake Evans news as rumors are now circulating a lot more around him, including Dave Pagnotta's recent comments. And finally, an article written about how Montreal can avoid what Ottawa's doing, but also some implications that Ottawa has on Montreal this very season. We'll dive into all that on this episode of Habs Digest. And I'm just going to jump straight into this. And I want to start by talking about this article here by Blaine Potvin. I will link it down below. It's an interesting article basically saying that the Habs can learn from the Senators' errors in their rebuild. Now, I want to start off by saying I think the biggest thing for me is the culture. The culture in Montreal, while yes, we've been losing, the culture seems amazing. The players all seem to love each other. They love playing for Martin St. Louis. The on-ice product has not caught up to the culture yet, but that's one thing that has kind of plagued Ottawa, and even Ottawa Senators fans themselves would say similar things, But they also tried to rush it. Like Ottawa bringing in a guy like DeBrincat, right? Like, and they even had that Giroux thing. It's like they seem to want to rush the timeline and then, and maybe go back, get some prospects. And there's a lot of kind of wishy-washy stuff going on in Ottawa. And that's something Montreal could avoid. However, I'm not so much interested in that. I'm more interested in the comments that come a little later on in the article, because I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this as well. First of all, read the article, check it out, leave some positive feedback. But one part of the article here, I'll make that a bit bigger for you guys. He said the fact that Ottawa might be willing to part with anyone this season, again, if they continue to struggle, because, let's be honest, if they continue to struggle, maybe they'll have to change their plans. But if they decide to change their plans, if a team's looking to add a veteran right-handed defenseman and Travis Hamonic is available, that could chill the hot sellers market Hughes is trying to take advantage of with David Savard. He also mentions that Nick Cousins would jump above names like Yoel Armia and Christian Dvorak in terms of bottom 6 forwards. And I just want to come in and say, just want to give my thoughts on this, because I read this and I saw some Habs fans discussing this. First of all, David Savard is going to be in much higher demand than Travis Hamonic. David Savard has that Stanley Cup. David Savard, they're both veterans. Hamonic's, I believe, 34 years old, but Hamonic has 1 point in 21 games. Savard has more than that, and Savard has also been much, I suppose they're both reasonable on the defensive end, but Savard, always near the league lead in block shots, plus his veteran presence and seeing how he helps young talent improve has been invaluable to Montreal. So, look, I'm going to be honest. I'm not super well versed in Travis Hamonic's time in Ottawa. Maybe some of you guys are, but to me, that is, look, I get that Kent Hughes is going to want to take advantage of a seller's market. And the more veteran righties that come on the market, the less Savard would be worth. I still think Savard is probably going to be close to the cream of the crop there. But the big thing here is the Nick Cousins thing. Look, no, not a lot of people really like talking about Nick Cousins, but to say Nick Cousins jumps above Yoel Armia and Christian Dvorak is insane to me. Christian Dvorak is the Habs' best face-off taker right now. Yoel Armia has been good, very solid this season. I'd say 10 points in, 22 games? I think they've both been very good. I think they're both much better than Nick Cousins, who I believe, I could be wrong, I actually didn't check the stats, I probably should have, but I believe he has less than 5 points this season, if not for sure less than Yoel Armia. So just some little things that could implicate Montreal if Ottawa does decide to sell. But all in all, I'm still confident Kent Hughes can get a great return for those guys. But we're going to quickly move on to the next topic of this video. And it has to do with my boy, Jake Evans. I love Jake Evans. I think he is so awesome. I don't want him to go, but he's an expiring deal. And Kent Hughes has made it clear that he doesn't want to let his players leave for nothing. So when we talk about Jake Evans here, Dave Pagnotta recently on the fourth period said this. He said he's got that great cap hit, as you mentioned, so there wouldn't even need to necessarily be retention from Montreal's perspective. For teams looking to stabilize their bottom 6, Evans is going to be a prime target for a lot of cup contenders. And there's a certain team that some people have been talking about. I believe they talked about this on Leafs Digest, our little friends but also rival channel. They mentioned how the Leafs could be a very good fit for Jake Evans. And honestly, in a vacuum, if I wasn't a Habs fan and if I was a Leafs fan and I saw a guy like Jake Evans available at his cap hit, I would try and be all over that. However, it annoys me to no end to have to even think about this. To have to think about Jake Evans in a Leafs jersey is crazy. But that's one of the teams that is being talked about a lot in terms of Evans. But that's the thing with Jake Evans. Right now, I don't want to trade him. I think he's so valuable. He's even played some time at 2C this year, admittedly for a team that has really struggled down the middle. But everything about this guy is just something that makes him a fan favorite. He's so solid defensively. He's been solid, though not his best on the faceoff dot this year. He makes solid decisions. When was the last time you watched a game and thought, wow, Jake Evans played poorly? Yeah, he didn't have great coverage on that Xhekaj OT goal against Utah, but every game, I'm just thinking he played very solid. He's never at the bottom of these game scorecards. He's always really good. So there's going to be a lot of teams in on him, and I think as we approach the trade deadline, we're going to be hearing more and more. As much as it pains me, a guy like Jake Evans is probably going to be gone because I think a lot of teams are going to offer a lot of maybe draft capital, maybe certain players for him on that expiring deal. But I want to know what you guys have to say. Do you think Montreal would ever trade into the Leafs? Because I don't. I don't think Kent Hughes would ever even entertain trading Jake Evans to the Leafs, no matter how much the Leafs were knocking on the door saying, hey, Kent, hey, Kent, hey, Kent, hey, Kent. I don't think it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some serious talks about him and to see some serious offers come in from contenders trying to take him away. But leave your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear from you. Final topic today, though, we got to get into the big stuff, and it's David Jiricek. So, gotta go here. There we go. NHL trade alert. They said some notes for the Chris Johnston show. He says there's around 8 teams that are in on Jiricek, and this is up from the previous number of 5 or 6 that we had heard. So we got Nashville, Pittsburgh, Vancouver, Philadelphia, and Montreal, right? And with Minnesota being the front runner. CBJ will consider a pick and prospect package now, and feeling it will happen soon. So we got Wild, we got Pens, we got Nashville, we got Canucks, we got Habs. Though Frank Saravalli has reported that the Canucks are not in, though I know Canucks fans have it out for him, is what it is. Now, there's a few things I wanted to mention on this front here. So we got some tweets talking about this as well. This one from Demidov Habs. Just saw this on Twitter. The Jiricek is a unique and rare opportunity I doubt will present itself anytime soon. He's a top right-hand prospect, just 20 years old, legitimate first-pairing potential. When these guys are out there and you have a huge need for a guy like that, you do whatever it takes. Now, the thing with David Jiricek is he's a big, mobile right-shot defender. He's a big boy. He's like 6'4", over 200 pounds. He has a crazy heavy shot. He's a physical player, but he's not that amazing defensively. And actually, one guy he draws a lot of comparisons to is Logan Mailloux. And I would actually argue Mailloux is more offensively refined at this very moment, though he is older. He was drafted one year before. But Jiricek has much better defensive potential. Mailloux's decision-making especially has been really bad. And while Jiricek is just not really there on the defensive end yet, he has shown some flashes, like a respectable -4 in 23-24 with Columbus last year, 10 points in 43 games, only averaging about 14 minutes time on ice. He was all even strength. He didn't get any power play time. I guess he's 21 now. He turned 21 today. So happy birthday, David Jiricek. Your name's in trade talks, and you're probably going to go to a different team. But the thing is, like, everyone's right. Like, a guy like this fits Montreal so well. And while there is a need for veteran presence on Montreal, and I wouldn't give up, the farm for a guy like this, seeing what you can offer and seeing how you compare to other teams is something absolutely necessary. And there's a reason Kent Hughes is looking into this. With Reinbacher's injury history right now, and Logan Mailloux just seemingly not quite getting there in terms of the IQ and the defense, at least not yet. It could take him a little while longer. Someone like Jiricek could immediately surpass both of them, right? He was a number 6 overall pick for a reason. He's 21 years old, just turned 21. He's had some great seasons. His draft plus 1 year in the AHL was 38 points in 55 games while being big and physical. Like, again, comparisons to Mailloux, but Jiricek undoubtedly has the higher ceiling. He was undoubtedly the better prospect. He still is today. So 11 points in 14 playoff games as well, just last season, the playoffs for the Cleveland Monsters. The problem with him, though, is what the trade package seems to be. Because, like, right now, I'm going to make this bigger, just put myself up in the corner. Right now, I mean, there have been some talks out of Vancouver that there are some rumors that Tom Willander would have to be one of the guys going back. And Canucks fans were like, wow, if that's the price for Jiricek, I don't know if I want to pay it. Some rumors out of Minnesota have some people suggesting Marco Rossi, who has spent a lot of time as their number 1 center this year, and who's been a near point-per-game player. A lot of talks that he may be in a deal if Minnesota does deal for David Jiricek. As a Minnesota Wild fan myself, I would hate that. I do not want to move Marco Rossi. You already got Brock Faber, too. I mean, look, Jiricek would be amazing, but is what it is. But I digress. In terms of Montreal, the demand seems to be a high prospect. Logan Mailloux and a first-round pick, I think, could maybe start to get you close. Because Mailloux, I think, does have great offensive potential. And I think that could be an interesting swap. Mailloux is great, and I think a lot of fans like him. Jiricek does seem to have the higher ceiling. Does that actually solve the problem right now for Montreal? I don't know. Does Justin Barron even move the needle at all for Columbus? Probably not. Jordan Harris is already barely getting any playing time over there. He's third pairing and has occasionally been the 7th D-man for them. So my big problem with David Jiricek is that I don't know how much Montreal would have to pay to get him. Like, are we talking something like, well, it seems to be a top prospect and draft compensation. Like, we're probably talking Joshua Y and a first-round pick or something like that, right? Big, mobile, right-hand shot defensemen who were like top 5-ish pedigree in their respective draft, who still have a ton of untapped potential. They don't come along often. They are going to be extremely expensive. It would not shock me to see Jiricek, to see the package that's moved for Jiricek and people to say, wow, that is a lot for what they're getting, because it's not just quality of player, it's scarcity of position and size and potential for the future. So what would you give up if you were Montreal? Would you give up Joshua One, a draft pick? I've seen some people say maybe like Juan Meshar in a pick or something. I don't know. Is that too much? Maybe, but again, for a guy like Jiricek, it might be worth it, though. At the same time, too, Montreal kind of needs veterans. Are we really going to roll a full D-core of guys who are under 25 years old? There's so many question marks here, which honestly makes me think Montreal's not going to make this trade at the end of the day, but I would love to hear your thoughts down below. I don't think I'd be willing to give up as much as the Habs would have to give up to get a guy who's still unproven. When they have another guy like Mayu down in the AHL, we still have a guy like Reinbacher coming. I just don't quite think it makes sense, but let me know your guys' thoughts down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for supporting every single day. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.